Okay, let's take a look at a question that involves the quotient rule for finding a derivative. So we're going to basically look at this question that they've given us, which is question 12 from homework 5, and figure out how we're going to apply the quotient rule, and maybe some help in how to remember the quotient rule, because you are going to have to use it at some point on a test, and you probably want to be able to remember it. So the question says find the derivative of, and they give us the function f of x equals x cubed minus 5 over x squared plus 5. Okay. So we have something that looks like a rational function. And the reason we need to use the quotient rule is because we're dividing two polynomials by each other. So what is the quotient rule? The quotient rule says that to find f prime of x, you're going to have to take the bottom, so whatever's on the bottom here, in this case the x squared plus 5, you're going to take the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, all over the bottom squared. Okay? That doesn't seem terribly intuitive. The way they taught it to us in Calculus 1 to remember is low d high minus high d low over low low. So it kind of has, like, if you wanted to sing it, low d high minus high d low over low low. You could repeat that a few times and it might help you remember it. Otherwise, you know, just kind of look at it a few times and try and come up with your own way to remember the formula for that. But either way, we've got the formula, we know what we're looking for, we have the function, so we are going to find this derivative. So in our case, f prime of x is going to equal, so first we want the bottom, so that's going to be x squared plus 5, and we're going to multiply that times the derivative of the top. The top is x cubed minus 5, so we're going to use the power rule on the 3, and that's going to bring the 3 down in front of the x, and then we need to subtract 1 from the exponent. So that's going to be 3x squared. And we know that the rule about constants is that their derivatives are 0. So it's just going to be times 3x squared. And then now we need to subtract the top. So that's x cubed minus 5 from, and multiply that times the derivative of the bottom. So again, the power rule. I've got x squared. I'm going to bring the 2 down in front of the x. I'm going to subtract 1 from the 2. That's just going to leave me a 1. I don't even really have to write that because that's the same as just having a single x there. And once again, that 5, there are no x's anywhere, so that 5 is a constant term, and its derivative is going to be 0. So we've got that, and then we need to put that all over whatever was on the bottom squared. So that's x squared plus 5 squared. And lucky for you guys, we don't even have to touch that for the rest of the problem. We'll just keep writing that in our denominator. But we do need to kind of simplify the top a little bit, see what we can do to clean that up. So that equals, let's see, 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the 4th. Plus 3x squared times 5 is 15x squared. Minus, let's get a parentheses in here to make sure we don't misplace any negative signs. 2x times x cubed is 2x to the 4th, and 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. And like I said, you don't have to do anything to the denominator, just keep copying that, so x squared plus 5 squared. Okay? We can do better than that. We can rewrite it as 3x to the 4th plus 15x squared minus 2x to the 4th. Now let's distribute that minus sign. That's going to give us a plus 10x all over that denominator. It really helps to write that denominator every single time, because otherwise you're going to skip over it, and then by the time you get to the end of the problem, you will have completely forgotten it was there. So it really does help to write it out in every step. And so now we can do some, well, just a tiny bit of algebra here. That 3x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth is just going to leave us with 1x to the fourth and plus 15x squared plus 10x, and that's all over that denominator that, since we wrote down over and over again, we will not forget to include. And so that's your answer. And however you remember, whether you remember that bottom times the derivative of the, well, I'm pointing at stuff you can't see on the screen, whether you remember bottom times derivative of the top minus top times derivative of the bottom over bottom squared, or low d high minus high d low over low low, that's entirely up to you. But that is how you use the quotient rule. Once you've got those individual pieces put into place, it's all just algebra. And so when we were able to find that derivative using the quotient rule. And that was question number 12 from homework 5. Shoot me an email if you've still got questions.